Hello and welcome TBU fans, I'm your host King05 and today I'm bringing you my week 5 match up against Cloud, coach of the Jersey Weaviles. You can see his roster on the right over there. It is Celesteela, Thunderous T, which is Z eligible, Celebi, Mega Gallade, Donphan, Kyurem, Mimikyu, Sharpedo, which is also Z eligible, Kabutops, and his viewer pick, which is Wigglytuff, which is also Z eligible. So looking at the matchup, he has a lot of threats to my team. He has the Z Sharpedo, which, if it is Z Crunch, can do a lot of work. Also Life Orb does just fine as well. The Thundy T, if it's Z move, can just blow back most of my team. Celesteela can wall a vast majority of my team. And yeah, so... He also has Mega Gallade, which I do not have a good switch-in for. The combination of Close Combat, Ice Punch, I don't have a switch-in to. Just those two moves alone on this team of 6 I decided to bring. But of course we are packing checks and lures to that thing, so hopefully we'll be able to take on his team. But anyways, let's go into the 6 I decided to bring. First off being the Landorus Therian. This is going to be a little bit of a interesting set. I do like the utility of defensive Landorus in this match, so I decided to go with quite a bit of defensive investment. Now what this allows me to do is, as you can see, I am Earthquake, Sub, Bulk Up, Rock Slide. With this investment, it allows me to take any hit from a defensive Celesteela with my Sub, barring an HP Ice, of course. So that's what the defense benchmarks are for. It's for my Sub to take a hit 93.8% of the time, because the difference of 93.8 and 100 was a lot of EVs, and I wanted some attack as well. So we have 32 attack with the Adamant Nature to hit pretty hard as well. You do want to do some damage with this thing. And Sub Bulk Up means I can potentially 1v1 a Celesteela, as well as I can switch into the Mimikyu and pretty much just set up on it, or just outright kill it with Earthquake. I want to use that as my check to it, although I do have other checks being my Swellow, Sharpedo, and Infernape, all of which outspeed and KO. Well, Infernape doesn't OHKO, but yeah, anyways, if it's weakened, Infernape can do the work. But anyways, back to Lando T. It's just a nice setup threat. If I can get up a Sub, it's very hard for him to deal with. So that's kind of my mentality with that set. It's also pretty cool, so I wanted to bring some cool stuff. Next up is my Infernape, which is going to be Sub Salac Berry with 3 attacks. Now this Infernape set is kind of designed to do everything. Like, I can use it early game to break, I can use it late game to sweep, I can use it for whatever I want to during the game. So I have the Fire Blast, which he has very few switch-ins to. His Fire Resists all get OHKO'd by Grass Knot, unless he wants to bring specially defensive Wigglytuff, which I don't expect at all. Although an Adrenaline Orb Wigglytuff would be really cool to see because of my Lando T's Intimidate, get the competitive and the speed boost. Ooh, that would be pretty spicy. But anyways, back to Infernape, getting a little sidetracked. I do have the Fire Blast Grass Knot, which he has no switch-ins to those 2 moves, and then I decided to go with the Vacuum Wave as my 3rd attack over a Nasty Plot or something like that, because I don't see myself getting an opportunity to Nasty Plot and set up a Sub. It's one or the other, and I feel like subbing up is really nice, because if I can force a switch, say come in on a Celesteela, threaten the KO, get a Sub on the switch out, I guaranteed get a kill, as long as I connect my moves. Unless he makes some god tier pivots, of course. But anyways, Vacuum Wave is also really nice to revenge a Sharpedo if it gets a lot of speed boost and I can't outspeed it with anything. I do actually have 3 forms of priority on this team, being my Infernape, Sharpedo, and Swellow, all of which do pretty decent damage to Sharpedo. My own Mega Sharpedo's Aqua Jet does about 30 to that thing. It's very frail. But anyways, Vacuum Wave can knock it out after rocks and a single Life Orb hit, unless he is heavily HP invested, which I don't expect. This thing's just really nice to be used as just kind of a catch-all to a lot of his team. I can wall break, I can sweep late game with the Sub Salac going into Blaze range. That's going to be really scary for him. As well as revenge the Sharpedo and potentially a Scarf Kyurem with the Vacuum Wave. So that's my Infernape set. Moving on to my Electros, the debut of Get Trost. I'm going to be rocking an Assault Vest set this week with 244 HP, 44 defense, and 124 SPDF, 92 speed with a careful nature. And this spread allows me to take a Z Crunch or a Z Waterfall from Sharpedo from full, because I don't want Z Sharpedo just guaranteed knockout one of my best checks to that thing. So, well, my best defensive check. If it goes for a Waterfall, and it's not Life Orb boosted, that means it's not a 2-hit KO, which is also something to note. And the special defense with an Assault Vest just means I'm incredibly bulky. Celesteela, Thunderous T, they just cannot touch me. Kyurem as well does not do very much damage unless it's Specs, in which case it's much easier for my offense to deal with. This is just a nice blanket check to all his special attackers, takes on every single one of them, and I decided to go for a physical set this week with Thunder Punch, U-Turn, Super Fang, and Knockoff. As I didn't want to lower my speed, I did not want to lower any of my defenses, so going for mixed attacking, while it was kind of nice to have the Giga Drain option versus the Donphan, I didn't feel like it was necessary, so I did decide to go with a physical set with Super Fang to do big chunks of damage to everything on his team. And then U-Turn for momentum. He cannot go into his Thunder's T to stop my momentum, he can't go into his Donphan to stop my momentum, and that's the problem with Volt Switch versus his team, so that's why I have the U-Turn. And then Knockoff is just really nice. If I can get rid of the Celesteela's leftovers if it's a defensive set, that means that its survivability is really hindered, because there's a huge difference between a defensive Celesteela with leftovers and without leftovers. So that's going to be a pretty big deal. Just getting the Knockoff and the U-Turn on the Celebi would be really nice, and then U-turning out on the Mimikyu to break its disguise, and then go into maybe my Sharpedo to take the Shadow Sneak and KO with a Crunch. Just this moveset is really nice versus his team. Thunder Punch, just general stab versus his team. Yeah, very nice set. Moving on to my Mega Sharpedo, which is a massive threat to his team. We have the Crunch, Aqua Jet, Waterfall, and Agility. This gives me a win condition if I decide to go for the Agility route. It was kind of just a filler move. I didn't really need a fourth coverage move versus his team, as Crunch, Waterfall, and Aqua Jet kind of covers everything. He doesn't have a switch into those 3 moves besides a physically defensive Wigglytuff. So, and even then, I think Wigglytuff might get it 2-hit KO'd by Waterfall after Rocks or something like that. I don't know, Mega Sharpedo is strong and Wigglytuff doesn't have the greatest defenses. So yeah, just the combination of my stabs is really threatening to his team. And the Agility just means that if I want to predict the Protect with a Sharpedo, I can then outspeed that the next turn. Just kind of general things like that. The Swellow, moving on to the next Pokemon, is going to be Flame Orb this week. I went back and forth between Flame Orb and Specs. Specs had the added bonus of luring in the Celesteela and chipping it heavily with the Heat Wave if I decided to predict that. And so that would have been nice. However, the physical set gives me another form of priority, which is really useful versus the Thunderous T and the Sharpedo, both of which can speed boost and agility, be faster than my whole team. And as you can see, I'm not running a Scarfer this week. So if those things get out of hand, it's definitely nice to have the priority in the back, as well as just Flame Orb, Guts, boosted Facades does chunk down Celesteela quite a bit anyways, and getting the U-turn momentum off of that, as well as just revenging Mega Gallade with the Brave Bird, because Specs Boom Burst does not OHKO Gallade unless it has a -1 defense from close combat. I felt like the pros outweighed the cons with the Guts set this week, so that's what I decided to go with. First time I'm bringing Guts Swallow in this league, I'm pretty sure. But anyways, just the standard moveset, Facade, Brave Bird, U-turn, and Quick Attack. And then I am speed creeping something, I think it's the Mega Gallade. Unfortunately I was not able to go Adamant this week, but I do have a lot of HP investment, which allows me to tank some hits from things, just in general. Not really there for anything in particular. Next up is my Empoleon with the Choppleberry. This is going to be one of my, well, basically my only real lure to Mega Gallade. I can take a close combat pretty comfortably. Well, not too comfortably, because it is a Mega Gallade close combat. It's, yeah, but with the Chapel Berry, I am able to take it. I go into Torrent range, and I can get off a Torrent Scald while he's at -1 defense. And that's going to do a lot of damage, put it in range of pretty much all of my Pokemon at that point. So that's going to be my main way of luring the Gallade, because Gallade is something that you would potentially revenge Empoleon with. So having that Chapel Berry and pretty powerful Scald with a 60 special attack is pretty nice. And then I have Flash Cannon, which allows me to 2-hit KO a max HP Kyurem, so that thing cannot stall me out, so subs on me, that sort of thing. This is going to be my rocker this week as well, as it's my most reliable stealth rocker, and I can set up rocks versus a majority of his team. And then I have the Roar, just in case something gets out of hand. It's maybe an offensive Celesteela with boosts, and Mimikyu cannot set up on me. Well, it can't really do that without fearing the burn anyways, but just having the Roar is really nice to rack up entry hazard damage on his team, as he does have quite a few Stealth Rock weak Pokemon. Well, not really, just Thunderous Tea, but getting chip damage on everything is really nice to put everything in range of my Infernape late game. And that's kind of my game plan going into this, weaken his team and then sweep with Infernape at the end. Maybe even use Infernape in the mid game to punch some holes and then sub into Salac range and then just try to connect Fire Blast and sweep. So getting chip damage on things is nice for that. And just Roar in general is a nice tech versus his team. If he goes for a sub on Kyurem, I can just get that thing out of there and take rocks again. Oh, another rock weak Pokemon that I didn't mention. But anyways, that's going to be my team, and I'll see you guys in the battle. Alright, so here is the battle between Cloud and myself. Look at the team he decided to bring, and first off we can see no Mega Gallade, which is really nice, as that thing was a pretty big threat. Although I did have ways to check it with the Swellow and the Up Priority, as well as having a defensive invested Landorus, as well as Chople and Empoleon. It still was a huge threat, so I'm very glad to see that not showing up here. But he did decide to bring the Sharpedo, which I'm expecting to be either Z-move or Life Orb. There's no real in between. I expect a physical set with Waterfall Crunch, Protect, and I don't know what his last move is going to be. Celesteela, I'm expecting to be defensive, probably physically defensive to take on my Lano T if I go for a Sword Stance. I know you need quite a bit of defense to be able to live a Continental Crush at +2, so that's kind of the spread that I was expecting him to run. With Heavy Slam, Earthquake, Leech Seed, Protect, just does nice damage to my team. The Donphan I was expecting to be more defensive with the Stealth Rocks, Rapid Spin, Earthquake, Ice Shard, that sort of thing. The Thunderous Tea I was expecting to either be Scarf or Agility with the Z-move, if Z-move wasn't on Sharpedo. So that's what I was expecting from Thunderous, as if it has a boosted speed from Agility or Choice Scarf, it can outspeed a lot of my team, well, pretty much all of my team, and hit it with for some pretty nice damage. If he's Z-move, he might go for the Z Focus Blast to hit my Electros as hard as possible, as well as the Sludge Wave could be an option as well to not miss when he's not going for the Z-move. But anyways, next up is my, his Kyurem, which I'm expecting to either be Scarf, if the Thunderous is not Scarf, or just substitute 3 attacks, as Ice Beam, Draco Meteor, and Earth Power does hit the majority of my team really hard. And the Mimikyu, which I'm expecting to be Sword Stance, regular set with the Life Orb. Yeah, let's just get right into the game here. So, looking at the lead matchup, I'm going to decide to lead off with my Electros, as it matches up well versus the vast majority of his team, and I can just U-turn out and get momentum on pretty much everything on his team. So we are going to be challenged by Cloud here, and he's actually going to lead off with his Sharpedo, which is probably one of the best case scenarios for me, as if he wants to stay in and attack me, he cannot KO me with any attack, as my defensive investment means that I live any Z-move, and so I'm just going to go straight for the U-turn, as if he stays in, he's taking 80% min from the U-turn, and if he switches out, which he should, I get momentum on anything. So he goes into Kyurem, which is probably one of the better things that I could have gotten. The U-turn damage reveals that he's not bulky, so he is definitely an offensive Kyurem. But here I'm going to go into my Empoleon and take this as an opportunity to set up my Stealth Rocks, as he's actually going to make the offensive switch in into his Donphan. Now here, I kind of half expected him to Rapid Spin, and if he Earthquaked me, it's not the end of the world. So I'm going to go for the Scald here, expecting me to outspeed him and get off an 80% min on him, but it turns out he's NASCAR Donphan, outspeeding my Empoleon, which he needs well over 100 EVs to do, but he is able to outspeed and one-hit KO my Empoleon with the Earthquake, which is kind of unfortunate for me. But I'm going to go into my Mega Sharpedo and basically claim a kill with the Waterfall, as Waterfall plus Aqua Jet is able to take out the Donphan, as well as Earthquake plus Ice Shard is a roll to 2-hit KO me with my little bit of HP investment, so it depends on the roll he gets on Earthquake if I'm able to live the Ice Shard next turn. So I'm going to go for the Waterfall, and fortunately for me, I'm actually going to get the Flinch, which means I do not need to take the Earthquake, and so having to take an Ice Shard is inconsequential. So here I'm able to go for the Crunch, just in case he wanted to switch out, which it turns out he does. So I'm able to catch the Kyurem on the switch with the Crunch and knock it out from about 55%, which means Kyurem got 0 hits versus my team, which is really nice, because once my Empoleon went down, I didn't have the greatest switch-ins. I kind of had to predict between what moves he was going to go for. But anyways, here he goes out into his Mimikyu, and I do have a very bulky Lando T to switch into this thing, get the Intimidate, and just deal with it that way. So I'm going to go into my Landorus, as he's going to go for the Play Rough, trying to catch my Sharpedo, trying to stay in, break the disguise on the Swords Dance, which is a good play on his part, but I am going to go straight into my Lando T. Take pretty much no damage from that Adamant Life Orb Play Rough. After the leftovers, it's only doing about 25%. And here, expecting him to switch out into his defensive Celesteela, I am going to go for the Bulk Up, which, even if he stays in, still works out pretty okay for me, as I'm able to still deal with the Mimikyu if it goes for the Swords Dance, which, as you can see, it did. So here, I'm just going to go for the Earthquake to try to break the disguise on the Mimikyu, as at this point he can go Celesteela, but I can still sub up on that thing if it's defensive. And yeah, so he's going to go for the Play Rough, and it does quite a considerable chunk of damage to my Lando T, as I'm going to go straight for the Earthquake to break the disguise on the Mimikyu. And now after leftovers, I'm pretty much out of range of the next Play Rough. There's basically one roll out of 16 that can knock me out, so it is a 93.8% roll in my favor to live this next Play Rough, even if he is Adamant Life Orb, which I'm pretty sure he is. The max roll is 94, and the next roll after that is 91, so I'm able to live that the vast majority of the time, but fortunately for me, he does miss, which means I am able to keep my Lando T at a relatively healthy amount of health. Well, that was kind of redundant, but my Lando T is still pretty healthy, and I get leftovers back to 105 HP. And now he goes out into his Sharpedo. Now, if this thing is Life Orb, the max damage he does is, I believe, 104, so I am out of range because of my +1 defense, but he does reveal the Surf, which of course is going to knock out my Lando T, and so that's pretty okay for me. I get to learn something about his Sharpedo set, and that it is special, or at least mixed, with the Surf. So now I know that my Electros can take any hit. If it's special, I take literally nothing from a Surf, and if he is mixed with Crunch, I can still take that pretty easily. So he does go for the Crunch, and reveals he is mixed. It does half, which means he's not very physically oriented, he's more specially oriented, because if he was physically oriented, it would have done like 60% with the Life Orb. But anyways, I'm just going to go for the U-turn, as it is completely free. I either kill the Sharpedo or get momentum, and he does decide to sack his Sharpedo to my Electros for some damage, which is nice to open up some doors for his Thundy T. But anyways, I'm going to go into my Infernape, as it threatens pretty much everything, and here he makes the play of going Celesteela. Now, you don't go Celesteela unless you're either Scarf or Akaberry here, so I'm going to call that and go out into my Electros, as it can take the Earthquake or the Air Slash, which is the only moves that would affect my Infernape, and I know 100% he's going for one of those. And that damage from the Air Slash reveals that he is a max special attack, or at least very close to it. And here, I'm actually going to go for the U-turn, as I can get momentum. Actually, no, I go for the knockoff, as I can get rid of the item on the Celestia, because if it was Choice Scarf, I want to get rid of that Scarf, as that's one of his ways to win, is by Scarf Celestial sweeping with the Beast Boost if it is potentially Scarf. So here he goes into his Thunder Steed. I could go for the Super Fang, and that would do more damage if he's Z-move than the knockoff. However, Super Fang has that chance to miss, and I don't need to take that risk. So I'm going to go for the knockoff, even though this thing could be Z-move, and he actually reveals that he is. The knockoff is actually consistent damage, so without risking the miss. So I can go for the knockoff into the U-turn, and since he went for Thunderbolts, I can see that that's his strongest move to hit me, so he's probably Double Dance with Thunderbolt HP Ice. But here I'm going to make the U-turn out into my Swellow, get my Flame Orb activated, and now I'm going to go for the Guts boosted Quick Attack, which might be able to knock out his Thunderous at this range. It's a roll, probably in his favor. I need a max roll to kill him, but he is going to hang on, knock me out with the Thunderbolt. That's going to be my Swellow going down. So here I can just go into my Mega Sharpedo and just kind of go for the Aqua Jet and clean up his team, as if his Celesteela is Scarf, I can knock it out with the combination of Crunch and Aqua Jet, as well as he can't OHKO me with anything unless he crits me, of course. Now here, getting the flinch on Donphan does make a difference, because he would be able to knock me out with any hits from the Celesteela if I was at 5 or 10%, but because of that, I'm able to go for the Crunch, and he actually realized he's not Scarf, which is going to be nice for my differential, as I don't need to risk the Aqua Jet. And because of the Crunch and the Aqua Jet, I don't even need to go for the Aqua Jet because he's not Choice Scarf on his Celesteela. I can just go for another Crunch, not risking maybe a min roll Aqua Jet. But anyways, that's going to be the victory for Mega Sharpedo, and actually getting 3 kills that game puts it at MVP of the TBU. So that's pretty nice. Mega Sharpedo showing that it is definitely one of the better Megas. And yeah, hopefully, Mega Sharpedo can continue with his performance and get even more kills. Right now it's 10-1 in the league, so that's pretty nice. Electros put in a lot of work, making its first game a really nice one, taking a lot of hits from everything, and I believe that was a 4-0 win. I think Lando T went down and Empoleon went, no, it was a 3-0. Lando, Empoleon, and Swellow all took a death, but that is a 3-0 win versus Cloud, and that puts us at a 4-1 record with a +9 differential, so we're looking pretty good to go into playoffs at this point, and definitely going to try to continue this little success. But anyways, that's going to be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.